Welcome everybody to our 1615 Capital Investors meeting. This is meeting number 5, I think. Welcome everybody that's here. Welcome some new faces. Glad everybody can make it out today. We have a lot to talk about and we're gonna get right into it. What I wanna do is start with some news, some good news that we had this past few weeks. Earlier, probably 2 weeks ago, after a lot of running around, we finally got 1615 Capital Investments to be a LLP. So that's a huge success on my book. So we can clap it up for that one. So that's a good move. More progress made and more steps to be made for that. We have a lot of new steps that we want to take coming up very, very soon. And we'll discuss that toward the end of the meeting. Also, just to let you all know, the payments have started this month or just today, where the meetings are starting today. We have started already to collect payments from it. You can pay through the invoice system that's sent out. If you've already verbally committed to the group, I've already sent you out an invoice. You can pay through the invoice. It's broken down to $125 for each month up to the month of November. That'll pay your full $500. You got December off, and then we'll start the monthly payments in January for the group and as we progress. Okay. In a few minutes, we'll have our guest speaker come up and speak with us. If anybody have any questions about anything so far as since from now to today. Yes, LLP, which is a limited liability partnership, which is basically what an LLC is, but in a partnership form. So it still has the same rules as a limited liability company, but involves partners involved in it. Speaking of that, as your payments become full, as you complete your $500 payment, we will get you signed up for your partnership part of it. Because right now it's just a company, 1615 LLP, but I have to add you all as a partner as you complete your payments. So as soon as your payment's completed, I'll get you signed up for it, and then you'll get your paperwork showing that you are an actual partner for the group and go from there. So really, really excited about that. Give me 1 second. All right, just killing a little time here for you all. 1 second. Not what I want. We'll just talk about it. So while I'm waiting for my guest speaker here, we'll go ahead and talk about some of the things I got planned going into next year, things I want people to get focused on. One of the main things I want people to start focusing on is what can you as a partner contribute to the group? So that's gonna be a major thing going into next year. As I preached about at the beginning of the group, that we want all of our partners to be engaged in this group. So you need to find out what is it that you think you can do that can add value to what we're doing as a group. Because you won't be able just to sit in here and get all the information and just pay your money and call it a day. That's not how this is going to work. It's going to be an active, engaged group. And we want everybody to participate in the group. So each partner and each individual that's considering being part of this group, thinking about is what can you do to actively contribute to this group. So that's a big thing that we want to talk about in the future. If you got an idea, if you got somebody you know that's has a concept or a proposal that you think that might be interested, that might be something that will fit what we got going on here, bring it to the table. That's you being actively participating. That's part of you being actively participating. So that's one of the things I wanted to bring up as well. And we'll go over that a little bit more, like I said, toward the end. I got a few more things I want to discuss at the end. As of right now, I want to introduce our guest speaker today, Mr. Lance Bloom. Known this guy a couple of years. He's been in the industry for a very long time. It's a family-run industry. I think he's been involved in it for a while. He is the senior associate, is that correct? At CBRE, which is the world's largest commercial real estate firm, as far as I know. Is that correct? I feel like I did pretty good. So I keep mine pretty short and sweet. So without further ado, I'm bringing Lance up and he can answer questions, tell him about himself and we'll go from there. All right. Thanks for coming, man.
Hey. So yeah, my name's Lance Bloom, like Eric was saying. I was nominated for Broker of the Year in Nashville last year. I've been named Power Leader by the Nashville Business Journal twice, and by the Nashville Post. And work for CBRE. I'm the head land broker there. Sold more land in SoBro than any other broker in Nashville, and really enjoyed all the development that's going on. It's definitely helped my business. I guess this is an investors club, so I guess if I could tell you all anything about real estate investment or what I think, I've bought and sold a few buildings on Lower Broadway. I bought one for $3 million and then sold it for $5.5 million later on, a year later. A couple more buildings about the same way downtown. And every one of those buildings, if I could give any advice, is when you put a building under contract, you can have what's called a due diligence time. Do y'all know what that is? You put on a contract. So when you put a building under contract, you'll have this thing called a due diligence period. You'll want to get as long as you can on it, as long as the seller will let you. If you could get 6 months, great. They're probably not going to give you 6 months. Yes. Okay. When you purchase a building for commercial real estate, there's 3 parts. There's a pre period before you even put it under contract, where you look at the area and you say, okay, I like this building. It's a good building. I think I can put a good tenant in there. I think it's a growing area. I think I can make money on it. And then there's the period where you actually buy the building, and you put it under contract. So when you put it under contract, there's 2 parts. There's a due diligence period. A due diligence period is when you'll go and do a phase 1, and you'll do a survey. You'll do a building inspection report. You'll take a look at the building and make sure that it's not about to fall down. So that period can last pretty much as long as the buyer and seller agree to. It could be as quick as 15 days to survey the building and see what it is, or it could be as long as 6 months. And if you've got a piece of land under development, you're trying to build a multifamily building, which nobody's at right now, but you'd have a much longer period. But I'll tell you, you can make the most money and the least amount of risk just buying a building and leasing it, and then holding it or selling it, than try to do any crazy development and build it and all that crazy crap. You don't have to do that to make a ton of money in real estate. The best and safest way is to just buy urban retail, in my mind. That's in a city or in a town that you know of. It's a building with, retail that's on a main strip that's got a lot of traffic, maybe cars going by. Lots of houses are getting built nearby. They're expensive, they're new. Seeing redevelop happen in the neighborhood. People can pay more in rent if there's more business being done there. And there's always more business being done if there's more houses over there. So if you've got a lot of houses getting built, turned over, new development, prices might have gone from $50,000 to $100,000 over the past year or two. That's where you should buy commercial real estate. That could be East Nashville, that could be North Nashville, that could be South Nashville. There's different pockets in all of those places where you can find buildings where you can make money. But let's say you find one of those buildings and then you put it under contract. During that due diligence period, like I said, let's say you've got 90 days, which is pretty normal, like 90 to 120 days due diligence. You want to hire a survey guy to look and see, where the property's boundaries are. Because the worst thing you could do, and I've seen it happen before, where people buy a building, they don't do a survey on it. Well, guess what? Half the building's on the other piece of somebody else's property, and they can tear it down at any time. So people get screwed really bad on stuff like that. You want to investigate the title and make sure people actually own the building without any strings attached. You'd be surprised that maybe somebody's got a claim on it or a mechanic's lien or something like that. You never know. You want to do a phase 1 environmental. If you get a loan from a bank, any bank's going to tell you that you've got to have a phase 1 environmental on it. And that just says if there's any sort of like chemicals or oil or anything that's spilled in there. Some tenants, they have to have a phase 1 before they'll even sign a lease. And sometimes you know, they won't do it because, oh, there's a dry cleaners there. I don't want to lease that building. Or, oh, there's some oil there and that's going to mess with our food. You know, like if you're a restaurant, you can't go into a place that used to be an old gas station unless all of the environmental problems have been what's called remediated, which basically means made better. So you could buy an old gas station, not even realize that was a gas station on there. There could be underground tanks underneath that are seeping in oil. And then pretty much you might as well just throw your money in a trash can, throw a match on it and light it on fire. It would be a lot easier to lose your money that way. But also one of the main points of due diligence in that period that you should do is actually go out and find the tenant, or at least think about who would be a good tenant beforehand. So like, let's say, you know, like the building I brought on Broadway, just as an example, and I'll say another example before, but there's a lot of boot stores, a lot of beer stores on Lower Broadway. The building that I bought was part of a condo. You can have a commercial condo, like a retail or office condo. It's not just homes. It's a part of a condo. So in the HOA, you had to read it, you know, or at least you would want to read it before you put it under contract or during the due diligence period. So when I read it, I saw that you can't have an alcohol tenant in there. You can't have a beer tenant, can't have anybody with live music. So that takes away all the honky tonks. So what's the highest and best use on Lower Broadway with everybody running around in cowboy hats and drinking beer and everything like that? A boot store. Boot stores make a ton of money down there. So I called up a bunch of national boot stores and got one of them to be interested in it. Boot Barn, credit tenant, publicly traded company. That really helps when you go to a bank. You know, nobody's going to have that at first, like a publicly traded company as a tenant, but always look to see if you can get a publicly traded company as a tenant or a company with a big franchise. Because when you go to a bank to get a loan, that's going to look a lot favorable. But anyways, I got the tenant, got an LOI, letter of intent, that's what it's called. And a letter of intent is just a term sheet on paper that says, this is what the tenant's going to pay you. This is what you're going to do for the tenant. This is how long the term of the lease is going to be. This is when the lease expires. So Google that later, letter of intent term sheet, and I'll tell you some more about it. Once you get that term sheet, if you can, go to a bank, call up a banker, call a banker that you know, Regions Bank, local banks. Use a local bank. Don't use a bank like Wells Fargo or Bank of America or anything like that, because there's too many layers to go through. Use somebody like First Bank or Citizens Bank or something like that that you can go to and get a loan from. Go to the loan officer and say, I'm buying this building. This is the letter of intent that I have on it. You know, this is what I'm going to make in money. And then you can start the conversation, because you will be able to get a loan on a building if you have a term sheet with a tenant that's got any kind of credit. You might only have to put 10 or 20% down. Conceivably, you buy a $250,000 building, 25 grand down, 50 grand down, if you've got a letter of intent from a tenant. And so, you know, what you kind of want to look for and what a bank's going to look for is what their return on investment is. So basically, like, let's say you buy that $250,000, a $240,000 building, and you get a tenant that's going to pay $2,000 a month on it. Well, they're going to pay $24,000 a year. So you are getting $24,000 a year on, did you have a question? Are you okay? Okay. No. $24,000 a year on $240,000 purchase. That's called a 10% return on your money. You're making $24,000 on $240,000. So $24,000 divided by $240,000 on your calculator says 0.10. That's 10%. You can kind of calculate the return that you're going to get on any purchase by taking the yearly rent that you're netting that's actually going in your pocket, not taxes, not insurance, not utilities, which you need to make the tenant pay anyway. So always make the tenant pay that crap. But what you're going to make $24,000 over the purchase price, that'll get you a return. As long as it's 10% or more, you'll be able to go to a bank and get a loan for it. And you're going to be making a lot of money on that building. I mean, you can conceivably buy $1 million worth of buildings with only $100,000. As long as you go to the bank first with a term sheet from a tenant, they will give you the loan, because then they know that it's immediately going to be spending off money with a quality tenant, and they know that you're not going to default. But even if you do default, at least they got a building with a tenant that's going to spit off money, or they know what they can lease it for later. That's what I've been able to do on all of my buildings. And I will drop buildings. I will drop the contract and not go through with it unless I have a tenant before closing. It's just too risky not to do it. You can speculate and say, oh, I think I'll get a tenant later. You don't know. You don't know. If they haven't gotten a tenant now, there might be a reason. You know, there's something wrong with the building, something wrong with the location. So I think probably the best advice as a real estate investor I could say is find the tenant before you buy it. If you're able to find a tenant before you buy it, you'll be able to get a loan and you'll be able to buy millions of dollars worth of buildings for 10 cents on the dollar just by doing that. If you, yeah.
What's your average? How to get
It depends. Also, there's a little, always put business days in the contract. So 90 days due diligence means you got 3 months. Well, if you say business days, most people don't, and they don't realize that means 1.5 times your days. So instead of 90 days, all of a sudden now you've got 135 days due diligence because it's every business day. So typically 90 to 120 days due diligence, so 3 to 4 months. Yeah. You'll make it soft, and soft means it doesn't go hard until the due diligence period ends. Always make sure that a title company is holding the earnest money. Never let the seller hold it. Never let the seller hold it. Always have an intermediary, a title company, somewhere that's a middleman that can hold it. That's for your safety, because the seller could run off with money, never transfer the deed to you, then you gotta sue them, and it's a big mess. You don't want to do that. So yes, you will have some earnest money, but always make it refundable during the due diligence period, and only non-refundable after the due diligence period ends. So after 135 days goes by, and you figured out the building and that it's safe, and that the survey all looks right, and the phase 1 environmental looks right, and you've got the tenant, hopefully, then you can let the money go hard, and then you can close after. Does anybody else have any questions or any thoughts or any histories that y'all have doing buildings?
Well, can you define again that term sheet that you said you recommend using, going to a bank with?
Yeah, a letter of intent. I can send you one, and then y'all can disperse it throughout the group and everything like that. But it's real basic. It's just a piece of paper that says purchase price, due diligence period, earnest money, closing period, reps and warranties, if they rep the building's not falling down, that you actually own it, and that you don't know of any environmental defects. It's just a very basic Word document. It spells out what you're going to buy and what you're going to put down, and that'll get the term sheet on paper before you pay a lawyer to do a contract. Always pay a lawyer to do the contract. Get a buddy if you can that does commercial real estate or something, but spend the money, $200, $500 to get a lawyer to do it. Because if you draw it up or get one from the internet, it might not be legal, or there might be something wrong with it, and then all of a sudden the seller can get out of it. Also, ask a lawyer every time to put this phrase and this verbiage into your contract: specific performance. So tell them to put specific performance in the language of every contract. That way the seller can't get cold feet and pull out of the contract. They have to sell. If you have specific performance language in the contract, you can hold the seller's feet to the fire. Like, you could have a building over, right across the street. Let's say that piece of land you can buy for $10,000. Well, that thing's worth $1 million. But the seller's an idiot, and he just sold it to you for $10,000. You don't have specific performance in the contract. Seller could just not show up to closing. Just say, I'm not going to show up. I don't want to sell it. My brother told me it's actually $1 million, not 10,000. Jigs up, and then you don't have it. If you have specific performance in the contract and they try to do that, you can sue them, and the judge will force them to sell it to you. It's called specific performance. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like that's the best option with that, or is there other ways as far as lender or crowdfunding, which is
crowdfunding is pretty nascent industry. in real estate right now. It's starting to become popular, but you're going to need some legal framework written up for the crowdfunding. It's very complicated. For an equity deal, that's fine for like the people pulling the money together to buy the building. But if you're going to get debt, I wouldn't recommend crowdfunding. The local banks are the second best option. First best option is something called owner financing. Do y'all know what that is? Okay, so owner financing means, so let's say you buy a building for $100,000. The seller will act as the bank. What you'll do is you'll draw up the loan sheet with the seller and you'll say, all right, I'll put $10,000 down. I'll pay you $1,000 a month until the note is paid off. And so that way, let's say you can't get financing from the bank because of whatever, because you got a bankruptcy or you got bad credit or something like that, and you can't get it from the bank. Go to the owner of the building and say, look, I can give you this much money down. I can give you $50,000 down on a $100,000 building or $200,000 building. You just carry the note. So what happens is you pay them interest every month on it. So they get the benefit of having the interest payment. They get the benefit of being the first person in line to get the building back in the case you default. So they still technically have an interest of the building. They have a big down payment. They've got interest coming in because sometimes people want cash flow. No, they don't want just a big shot of money right at the beginning. Maybe they want $1,000 a month every month for the rest of their lives. People like mailbox money. So that's the best. I would Google that later too, owner financing, and look at that if you don't know it. But owner financing is the #1 way to buy a building. If you can get them to do it, it can be very beneficial. Also, you can structure in such a way that you don't actually pay principal. Let's say you owe $100,000 and it's a 4% interest. That's $4,000 a year. So that's $350 a month, let's say. It's a little bit less than that. Let's just say $350 a month. You don't have to pay principal until 5 years from now. It's called a balloon payment. So at that time, you can pay interest every month, and then 5 years ago is when you owe the rest of it. And at that time, maybe you've got a tenant, you've got cash flow, you can actually go to a regular bank and get a better loan, and then just pay off his loan with the bank's loan. So balloon payment, also look up balloon payment too to kind of learn what that is. But that's a way to make a lot more money on the rent than you would if your interest payment had principal attached to it too. $350 a month instead of $700 a month, and that can make a lot you put in your pocket from your tenant. But back to what she said, no, private. If you've got a friend that's got the money, get him to draw up a note agreement, and he might like that. He might want the money coming in every month, and then he'll be first in line to get the building if you default on it. So friends, I wouldn't say family too much because that can get a little weird, but friends definitely. And local banks should be your top 3. When you started getting into the Bank of America and the Wells Fargo and the big banks all across the country, they got branches in every city. Then they've got 10 loan officers that you got to go through. Take that loan before the due diligence ends. So you need somebody that'll take only a month or 45 days to make their decision, not 6 months. You don't have time for that quick. And so a First Bank, Citizens Bank, even Regions, even SunTrust, even Pinnacle or Avenue. Avenue's gone now, but Pinnacle, Capstar, those are the local banks that you should go out and 1 or 2 guys to make decisions. In the case of First Bank, it's only 1 guy. It's a billionaire named Jim Ayers. He's the only one. In terms of the local bank, you got 1 or 2 decision makers instead of 20 with the big banks. Time kills all of deals in real estate. If you don't do something expeditiously, quickly, and on time, and get all your ducks in a row, well, that 90 days will go by like this, and you got nothing to show for it. So you just wasted a bunch of time, probably money, getting the survey or environmental. All this stuff will cost about, sometimes with environmental everything, probably $5,000 per building to inspect it and make sure that the building's okay. You might be like, I don't want to spend that money. The building looks fine. Spend the damn money, especially for a survey in phase 1. The title, you can get him to pay for that at the end. But Sorry, I'm just texting me. But they, you want to spend it. You don't want to be trapped with a building that's got deficiencies that you can't fix. And the seller's going to be like, sorry, I sold it as is. That's your problem. So yeah, definitely do that. But definitely important, you know, I mean, and go around to businesses that already have a business. Like, let's say there's a barber that you really like going to. Go to him and see if he wants another location, or if he's got a friend that has one. Say there's a pizza place that you really love. Go and, you know, talk to them. See if they want to open up another location. The Subway. Go to the businesses that are already around that might not be in that neighborhood, but you think would want to be in that neighborhood. Say it's East Nashville, and they got one in Inglewood, but you think they might want one in Cleveland Park. You know, there's a building that, you know, I'm buying in Cleveland Park, you know, right off Dickerson Road over there. There's a pizza place called Two Boots in Vanderbilt. They've got a lot of hipsters that go there and eat. There's a lot of hipsters that live in Cleveland Park. So I've gotten them to agree to go over there and do their second location. There's a building I'm buying on Gallatin Road that I'm going to turn into like a microtel, like an Airbnb hotel on the top. And then on the bottom floor is a hair salon. So it's already got all the hair salon equipment, mirrors, everything. So all I did was I went to all the local hairstylists in town and said, hey, do you want, you know, a new location? I got this one coming from Cannery Row called Parlor and Juke. They're really great. They do a lot of celebrities' hair. You know, we'll actually been in a bunch of magazines. She's going to go over there and take over the first floor. So go to local businesses that you like and that are popular, not ones that look like they're about to go out of business, but ones that you think are doing good and that you actually like going to or have heard. See if they want to open up a second location. A lot easier for people to open up a second location after they've proven their concept than somebody starting out the first time. You'll probably know that now. You know, it's real hard to start off the first time, get that first guy to give you a chance. And when you're a real estate guy, time kills all deals. So you need somebody that you know can get the money or get bank financing and sign a lease with you so you can go to the bank. Or at least a term sheet you believe in. Because the bank will do it just on a term sheet, just on the bet that they're going to sign a lease.
Like the National Bank.
No, you don't need them, but they'll give you a better deal. They'll give you a better rate. You know, they'll let the loan, like for example, like on my Broadway building, I had guys that offered 20-year amortization periods, and I had one that offered 25-year. The longer the amortization period, the less your payment is, the more money you're going to make. Who had the lowest rate and the longest amortization period? Well, it's Fargo, the biggest bank in the country. That's not a surprise. But who had the lowest down payment that I had to put down? Avenue Bank, a local bank. So I had to put less money with a local bank than the National Bank. Now, I could put down more money, so I chose the National Bank because the terms were better. But if I, wanted to put less money down for whatever reason, then I had Avenue Bank. And you'll find that most of the case. Also, if you can, do something called a non-recourse loan. You can look that up later, or at least limit your recourse when you get a loan from a bank. Non-recourse. So recourse means if you lose the building, let's say you got a $300,000 loan and the building is $300,000. Well, there's a recession. All of a sudden real estate values take a 50% hit. Your tenant goes bankrupt. You have to foreclose. You can't make your payment anymore. The bank comes, forecloses on your building. Well, the bank says, you know what? This building ain't worth $300,000 anymore. It's worth $150,000. Now I want the extra $150,000 from you. And they're going to come after you and take the rest of your money. Non-recourse in a loan. If you have a loan that's non-recourse, that means that they can't come after you. That all they can get back is the building, and that's it. And you throw them the keys. Whenever you buy a building too, set up an LLC to buy the building. Don't buy buildings in your own name. Do it in an LLC. Somebody slips and falls on a banana, breaks their hip, who are they going to sue? They're going to sue the rich guy that owns the building, the landlord. When they sue the landlord, then you're responsible for it. If you're an LLC, you have liability insurance. And even if for some reason liability insurance crazily doesn't cover it, always get liability insurance. You can just declare the LLC bankrupt and walk away. If you declare yourself bankrupt, well, that ain't good. Yeah, new LLC. LLC for every building. I got a different LLC for every building. And I always title it whatever the address of the building is. 320 Broadway Partners LLC, 400 Gallatin Partners LLC, 18 Broadway Partners LLC. Just make some boring name with the address and make the LLC. It doesn't have to be like, anything cool. Just, make an address on the LLC, but always get an LLC to limit your liability and so that you don't get sued by some crazy that slipped on a banana, because it happens. Really, really does.
One thing you were mentioning, again, going back to the banks, it sounds like local is definitely the way to go, but I guess my question to you, when you build a relationship with local banks, does that kind of help you when it comes to asking for a loan? Does that make the relationship a little bit easier or better? Or does it
Yeah,
really matter?
if you have, if you know the person, or if you call them and, take them out to coffee or something, maybe find a commercial loan officer, say, can I buy you coffee? Can I buy you breakfast? Or send them, your resume or deals that you're doing. At least get them knowing who you are. Because if they know who you are, then they're going to be more likely to give you a loan. Banking is still a very personal thing. They don't put you into a computer and spit out, we got to give you a loan. I wish it was like that, but they don't. They're going to look at you. They're going to see what you do. They're going to see what you are. They're going to look at the deal. That's the way it is. So if you can take them out to lunch, or at least get them, say, hey, I've got this building. Would you be interested in a loan? Maybe just BS. Say you got a building and this tenant and you're buying it and you're talking to them about a loan, and then never call them back. But at least they remember you and they say, oh yeah, that guy called me a couple months ago. Say you went with Capstar. Say you went with Bank of America. Just whatever. Doesn't matter. And but at least show them that you're out there, an active real estate investor. That you're not just some schmolo that's trying to get a loan for a building. Yeah, it wouldn't be a bad idea to call some of these guys up and say, hey, I'm, looking for these buildings. I'd love to do a deal with you. They'll remember it, Also, make sure that the deal is good. They're going to look at your balance sheet. They're going to look at the deals that you've done. They're going to look at your credit rating. They're going to look at all that stuff. So the best way for you to get a loan is for the lease to be as good of a rate of return as you can get. If you can get like a 12 or 14% rate of return, so that would be like $30,000 on a $150,000 deal, or that would be a 20% return, but $30,000 on a $150,000 deal, that's 20% return. The better your rate of return on the lease, the more likely you're going to get that loan. Because if a bank officer is looking at a deal that's a 20% rate of return with a pretty good tenant that's got another location in town, doesn't matter if you got a 500 credit rate, and they're going to do that deal because they're going to make a lot more money. They'll jack up the interest rate on you a ton. That's okay, because your rate of return is so much you can pay off the interest. No big deal. So the better the deal is, the more likely you'll be able to get a loan from the bank, no matter what your financial standing is.
You mentioned, again, with credit ratings, the banks and stuff like that. Will they look at us individually credit, or will look at 1615 investment group credit rating?
They'll look at them all, and you'll probably have to have a recourse, like I mentioned, non-recourse. You're probably going to have recourse. Limit your recourse. Try to get them down. See if you can only have 50% of recourse in the loan instead of 100%. So if the building's worth $300,000, just promise them 50% of it, $150,000. But the more people you have in an LLC, the less risk there is on a banker. So I'm not 100% sure, but I'm 75% sure they'll look at all the members and say, all right, you got one guy at 600 or whatever, but you got 3 guys at 700. And the deal looks really good, and we'll do it. So yeah, that helps. If you've got a group of investors, that definitely helps. Yeah. Well, yeah, and hey, I don't have that great of a credit, believe it or not. I really don't. I missed a AT&T bill and I didn't pay it. My credit went down. So they'll be like, hey, what's this, and you'll have to explain it to them. But if the deal is good, it doesn't matter. I've been able to do deals back. It's a lot easier for a commercial loan than a residential loan or a car loan or something like that, because a car loan ain't paying you rent every month, but a commercial building will. So it's easier.
One last one for me, because that's so much question. With your expertise, what you've been doing for a small group like ourselves, what would be the way to go as far as putting X amount of dollars in this account, and let's just say 3 years or 5 years from now, trying to go towards a certain direction, whether it be commercial, whether it be retail, whether it be buying a home and doing, and doing like something like an Airbnb or something like that.
Well, especially for a group, I would say like to minimize any like infighting or problems, because whenever you have a group, there'll be some guy that'll be like, I don't like this. No, so it's, you got to think about what's the most passive investment you can do. What's the one with the least amount of headache or work as a landlord? Office buildings, the most work. Awful. A lot of headaches, a lot of different tenants. You got to pay the water, you got to pay the electrical. It's just janitorial. It's a mess. Multifamily is the second, but a lot of times you can farm that out to a property management company for like 5% of the rent. So that's real good. And it's a little bit easier than an office. You don't have to pay utilities. You can farm that out to them. You can farm them out a lot of stuff. But the easiest are warehouses, which I don't recommend unless you find a tenant that can pay the lease and buy a warehouse. That's fine. Make sure that it's a small warehouse, not a big one. But if you find a small warehouse and get the tenant before, go ahead and buy that. Make it a triple net lease. And retail too. Retail is the easiest, because you make it a triple net lease. Triple net is net, net, net. That means you're getting all of the money. All of it is you. They pay the taxes, they'll pay the insurance, they'll pay utilities, they'll pay any maintenance on the property. Net, net, net. Landlord gets it all. And so look that up later if you want triple net. Make sure all your leases, no matter what, the rest of your life are triple net. That means you know exactly how much money you're making every month. If the utility bills go up, if the taxes on the property go up, if the insurance goes up, doesn't matter. You're making the same amount of money. It's triple net. All that gets passed on to the tenant. So no matter what you ever buy, and I tell this to everybody from investors that are millionaires that work with me that aren't into real estate and I'm working with them, always make it triple net, 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 net. But yeah, going back to your question, buy retail buildings. Urban retail. Don't buy a shopping center out in the middle of the sticks. No, don't buy a Dollar General. For the love of God, don't buy a Dollar General or anything like that. Don't buy any building that is built for a specific tenant. And that's why I say Dollar General. It could be anything, but most of the buildings are built for specific tenants, like Dollar Generals or something like that. That building is built for one specific tenant in mind. That tenant goes out, your rent is going to be half of what you can usually get, because the building is specifically built for one guy. It's not just a block building that can be anything. It's for a very specific tenant. Very poor decision to buy any building that's like that. No. Restaurants are, those are okay too, because they can be released to, like, you've probably seen it a lot of times, like that Captain D's on West End. They used to be there. Now it's a Starbucks. That Mrs. Winters on the corner, that used to be, Mrs. Winters. Now it's Chipotle, not Chipotle. It's something, check cashing business or something like that. Those can be re-tenanted pretty easy. And they're usually in like a retail, main drag, near a stoplight, corner real estate. Best real estate you can buy is on the corner. Hard corner with a stoplight. You can buy real estate on a hard corner, a stoplight, buy that real estate. That's the best. Traffic is king when it comes to retail real estate. You want people walking by and you want cars driving by. Dollar General, stuff like that, they're usually in the middle of freaking nowhere on the sticks. There's a parking lot around it and like 2 farmhouses. You don't want to buy that, because when they go out, nobody else is going to want to be there. But KFC's like on a busy street. Always somebody's want to be on a busy street. Somebody's always going to want to be there. So I would say retail. Buy retail in a high traffic area that's an urban redeveloping area. East Nashville, North Nashville, the popular areas right now are like Nolensville Road, kind of in between Thompson Lane, Buchanan Street, DB Todd, that area. A lot of people are buying up commercial real estate. I think the next one is Clarksville Highway, going towards Bordeaux. I really like that area. There's some houses up there that have ridiculous views. I think people are going to migrate towards there. Jefferson Street, East Nashville, Dickerson Road. Love Dickerson Road all the way up to Douglas area, that area. Madison's on the come up. I mean, if you look at areas like the Nations and Wedgewood, Houston, and, you know, places like that, I wouldn't recommend Lafayette right around there, Murfreesboro Pike. I don't like those two roads. But the other areas I mentioned, but if you look at, you know, Wedgewood, Houston, if you look at Gallatin Road, I mean, the prices on Gallatin Road have tripled in the past 5 years. I mean, places that used to be like, you know, the Nashville Hair and Wig are now like a Starbucks or something like that. I mean, that's what happens in these areas. I mean, they really come up, and when they come up quick, and it's because of the houses. Look for areas that have a high appreciation of home prices. So like East Nashville and McFerrin Park near Dickerson Pike. Dickerson Pike, that area, the #1 highest home appreciation in Nashville over the past 5 years has been that neighborhood. The #1 appreciating home market in America over the past 10 years, believe it or not, is East Nashville, right here in Nashville. #1 in America. And it shows when commercial real estate goes up triple in value in 3 or 4 years. People follow houses, people follow money. All of a sudden, homes are getting remodeled, torn down, those new tall and skinnies are getting built. People with money are coming in. You know, you want people that, you want density too. Not even like people with money, but just a lot of homes. Look at a Google map and see if there's really small lot lines. Avoid areas with big lots, like, you know, like Old Hickory, Tennessee or something, or Belmead. Belmead's one of the richest zip codes in the country. And retail is crap over there and has been since I was a baby. I was born and raised in Belmead. Ain't nobody going over there. It's been the same Crystal and Wits for 20 years. And it's because there's big lots there. You got 2 or 3 acre lots. It's just not the density. There's not people there. So look for places with, you know, look at Google Maps. Look at the rooftops. Bellevue's good. Bellevue's got a lot of multifamily over there. There's a big redevelopment happening over there. You know, I don't think you can get the appreciation in Bellevue that you can in some of these other places. And also are you from Bellevue? Do you live in Bellevue? Okay, well, if you work in Bellevue, buy where you live or buy where you're close to that you really know, you know, too. So, you know, don't buy in Murfreesboro if you don't live in Murfreesboro. If you live in Nashville, buy in Nashville. You know, if you live in Clarksville, buy in Clarksville. Don't be buying up in Nashville unless you're there every day. Yeah, so you know, so you're driving the streets and you know people moving and you know where families are going like that. That's big. So I would look for that too, you know. Off in Nashville West, like in between Charlotte and that area, really big. You know, a lot of land is traded over there for multifamily. Retail has appreciated a lot. There's a Little Caesars on Charlotte Avenue. You know where that is, where the Walmart is, close to Nashville West? I think it's probably doubled in price in 3 years. That was a foreclosure. Somebody bought that in foreclosure. So also keep your powder dry because this cycle is almost over. 2 or 3 years, I'm gonna be out of business, boys and girls. No, I'm just joking. No, I'll be fine in business and everything will still be going, but I'll be like you. I'll be looking to deals to buy at that point. I won't be broker. I'm selling. I'll be fine. I'll be with you guys because there'll be blood in the streets. People lose their buildings because they put too big of a loan on it and the loan isn't being serviced by the tenant, all kinds of reasons. But nevertheless, whatever, you know, someone's lost, someone else is a gain. You will be able to purchase buildings on 50 cents on the dollar in great areas and have amazing returns the rest of your life. So don't go crazy thinking it's a hot market. It's never going to end. It always ends up and down. You know, that's Donald Trump. He's gone bankrupt 3 times because he keeps on leveraging up and then it goes down, but then it goes back up. So, you know, that's just somebody that everybody knows, but it's the truth. It's cyclical. The market is always cyclical. Even if the market's going up, it'll go like this. It'll be like a snake. It's not, it just doesn't go up like that, like a rocket. It goes like this, like a sputtering rocket. But you want the trend. The trend is your friend, and the trend is going up in Nashville. Well, thanks for having me.
Right. You get a photo op with Murray?
I did not, but I guess I
I'd
could.
like to do one real quick. If you don't mind.
No problem.
Sure, we'll do it.
Yeah, let's go. I gotta look this up to hang out.
Yeah, it's very useful. Okay, we gonna have a few more things to talk about. Let's thank Lance for coming out. We appreciate it very much so. I'll take a picture real quick.
Okay, 1, 2, 3. Perfect.
Tell that hello.
I will.
What's that?
Yes. Yeah, all that's on there. Just email, call me.
Yeah, I got you. All right, cool. All right. Once again, thanks to Lance for all that great information. Feel very informed. That was a lot of good information in that 40-minute session there. We're gonna wrap things up. Let's got a few things to close up with. Once again, what I spoke about right at the beginning before Lance came on about what you can contribute to the group. So put that as a thing, as a to-do list, part of your homework. What can I contribute to our group to bring value to this group? Other things, raising capital. That's like a big focus going into next year, is raising capital. Lance brought up the 3 main options, or different options to go with as far as ways to look at funding. He's talking about local banks. What was the other one he said? Private lender. And yeah, owner finance. But that was a new one to me, so that one was very informative. I'll be looking that up when I get a chance. Other thing, I posted a book in there, an ebook about analyzing commercial real estate deals. And I think that's a big thing. Lance kind of touched some of it. Start trying to learn that terminology, learning the math of analyzing the deal, because that's going to be really big and key. A lot of the things Lance was speaking of, the triple net leases, those things are involved with analyzing the deal. So it's important that you learn those terminologies and numbers and formulas and all those things. It's not too complicated from what I've looked at so far, but it's just good to keep repeating yourself, reading it, so you just get real familiar with it. It becomes a second language to you. Other thing, also to start looking at as we go toward this 4th quarter, is officers, because we'll be electing them probably at the beginning of the year. So start kind of looking at who you think will be fitting into what you're looking for. As far as officers, I think it's 5 roles in the officers positions: president, vice president, secretary, treasurer, and sergeant of arms. Yeah, that'll be at the very beginning of next year. So January, we'll elect our officers, because we'll already have our partnerships completed. We'll be going into the new year, starting like focusing nothing but on what we're going to be investing in. So officers. And then last but not least, the other thing, which is something we can start thinking about now and going into the beginning of the year, is what our first project will be. Looking at the ways of raising capital, you need to find a project to raise capital for. And I think that will help immensely to go ahead and have a project set up. So if we do go to a bank, or we do go to a lender, a private lender, we already have the project that we have chosen to show them. So we already start doing our research and our work on that. So we need to find that first project that we want to invest in. So that'd be a main focus as well going into next year, because we can go ahead and get that ball rolling. We'll be ahead of the game. So that's pretty much all I had for today. Once again, I want to thank Lance. Did anybody have any other questions or concerns about anything at all? Any questions at all? But that is it. And hope everybody have a great rest of the day. And we'll see you next month, the next third Sunday in September. I can't think of the date of it right now. I think it's the 17th. I'll double check here. 18th. So next meeting will be the 18th of September, third Sunday of September, right here at Midtown Hills Precinct at 2 p.m. That's all I got. Y'all have a great day. Enjoy the rest of your day. Just get my guys.